Welcome to my channel. My name is Erica, and in today's video, I have pulled out all of the eyeshadow palettes that I used throughout the month of November, and I've actually ranked them. I think there was one I just could not rank them, but this time around I did rank them. There's 10 palettes I used in total throughout the month of November, which is a little lower than normal because I got sick towards the end of the month and wasn't filming. And I want to say, first of all, that they're just ranked this way just based on the palettes I use throughout the month. I don't dislike any of these palettes. I really do like all of them very much. I love them. But I don't know, I wanted to kind of make it a little bit more challenging for myself, because ranking palettes, I've mentioned this every time I rank palettes in a video, is very difficult for me to do because I truly love eyeshadow palettes. I love all of the ones I have in my collection for the most part. Now, all of these, except for 3, I filmed videos with or filmed the look that I created with the palettes. The other 3, I just, created an eye look and then sat down and filmed a video. But I will be popping up pictures of my looks in this video, so you can kind of like maybe refresh your memory. If you happen to watch the videos, you may not have watched any of them, but I like to do that. So then I kind of remind myself the looks that I created and then just give you an idea as to what I did with each palette. So I'm going to start off with the palette that's in the lowest rank spot, and then obviously go on up the chain until I get to the palette that's in the number 1 spot. So the palette that's in the number 10 spot is the Ofra Lotus palette that my dear friend Julia sent to me. And I think this is such cute packaging, but I really like the color story. It's more neutral. It's maybe more soft and more subtle, but I really like the look that I put together with this. And I do like having palettes like this in my collection that are just maybe a little bit easier to put looks together with, more soft and more subtle. I don't always feel like putting like really bold, bright, deep, dark, whatever colors on my eyelids. Sometimes it's just nice to have something nice and soft that's easy to put together. You can walk out the front door feeling like you got it going on. And I definitely felt like I had it going on with the look that I created with this palette. I think it's gorgeous, really fun. And I'd never tried a Ofra eyeshadow palette before and was very impressed with how this performs. So Julia, thank you very much. I love this. The palette that is in the 9th spot is the Violet Voss All of You Forever. And I created a look with this palette for my true crime video, the Gary Ridgway true crime video. And you know what? I've almost decluttered this palette a couple of times, and I haven't done it because I really like how it performs. And I love the tones in here. I don't know how much it says olive, because to me, when I hear olive, I think of olive green, and there's really only like 2 real olive green shades here. This one and that one. But I mean, olives are brown and black, But I really like this palette. I love how it performs. I really do. It's a very nice, really pretty neutral color story with some really fun pops of color in here. I don't know. I don't know why I've wanted to declutter it. I always think, oh, I don't need to keep that palette, but I'm so glad I still have it in my collection. Number 8 is the Aussie Bat palette from Rock and Roll Beauty that has now been absorbed by Makeup Revolution. And this is one of my favorite palettes in my collection. It truly is. But in terms of the palettes I used in November, that's why it's ranked in the 8th spot. But I did do a collab with Andy. Andy Does Stuff. We did a 80s and 90s pop culture collab. And Andy had never used this palette before. Is that right? I don't think she loves this palette as much as I do. But I love it. I love Aussie. I love this color story. I really do like the way everything performs in here. I will say that a couple of the shimmer shades, this one and that one, Sin and Sato, are maybe... how would I word it? They're more subtle, maybe not as like metallic looking as some of the other shimmers in here, satiny shimmers. But I love having this palette in my collection. I love Aussie, love the color story, the quality, and the fact that it's shaped like a bat. I mean, cool stuff. The palette in the 7th spot is the ColourPop Kathleen Lights Dream Street palette. And this is the first real eyeshadow palette I've ever owned. This was gifted to me from my daughter. I know I've talked about this a bajillion times, but this started my whole obsession with makeup. I will never understand really why, but it did. And I've panned 1, 2, 3, 4 of the shades in here. I used to use this all the time when I first got it, all the time. And you can tell, obviously, the shades I pan were like my faves in this palette. And I did use this palette in a collab with Jan and Shawnee. We used like an older palette in our collection and talked about our history or our feelings about makeup since we started until now, basically. And really nostalgic and fun to pull this out of my collection and play with it again. I will say that the shimmers I used, this one here, right, and that one, just maybe weren't as dynamic and bold as they used to be. I mean, this palette's like 5 years old, and I can tell that the age is starting to catch up with it. The mattes were fine, but yeah, the shimmers were a little, And this was hard for me to rank in the 7th spot because I could have ranked this number 1 because I have this deep nostalgic love, tenderheartedness towards this palette. But you know, in terms of some of the other palettes I use in the month of November, that's why it's in the 7th spot. I can say that about every single palette here. In the number 6 spot, we have the Natasha Denona Retro palette. And my dear friend Darcy, the brand owner of Saints Angel Centers, she sent me this palette, which blew my mind. It's absolutely gorgeous, like wine berry tones in here. Was really impressed with how everything performed. I would say that I like the mattes better in this palette than the shimmers. I have the Jubilee palette from Natasha Denona, and those shimmers are just so amazing. And I didn't feel like the shimmers in this palette are as amazing as the shimmers in the Jubilee palette. But I really, like I said, really love the mattes. The mattes are really nice. I know there's like cream to powder formulas in here. I'm not sure exactly what shade those are, but just love this whole setup here. You know, I really like the shades in here. This was another palette that was really hard for me to rank, and I'm just very blessed that Darcy sent this to me. I love this palette. Number 5 is the Icy palette from Glamlight. I did not film a video with this or even film this look on my lids. I just created a look and went off to work with this. And my dear friend Cece sent this to me. I'll link her channel in my description box. Isn't that gorgeous? Lots of different beautiful blue tones in here, and I had so much fun putting the look together. You know, this is a really nice quality palette. Glamlight palettes to me are just so good, so good. There was one I used this month that I wasn't a huge fan of, but that's pretty rare, pretty atypical. But yeah, this palette, I really want to do a battle of the palettes with the bubblegum palette from BH Cosmetics. I got to get off my lazy ass and do those videos. I don't know why I'm dragging my feet so much about that, because I think it would be so fun. But just thrilled that Cece sent this to me and had a really fun time putting the look together with it. The palette in the 4th spot is the Angel palette from C Color. And this is a dupe for a KVD palette, I'm pretty sure. C Color is no longer in business, which just breaks my heart, because I really was a huge fan of C Color, because they would put out dupe palettes for a much more affordable price. I know that can be controversial. I know not everybody likes that concept, but I do, because I'm cheap and I like to have, you know, fun color stories and that are in more expensive palettes for a cheaper price. You know, I'm all about that. But I love the look that I put together with this. Love the shades that I used. Love this color story. I think this is a really cool color story. Well, cool tone and cool in general, you know. Black, blue, silver, gray, green. This cream shimmer is really nice. Everything works in here really well. You know, the shades I've used, just awesome. Really fun. So again, this is another palette that was hard for me to rank. Why is this so hard for me to do? Number 3 is the Cherry on Top palette from BH Cosmetics. And I did create a look for Jan's grandson, Cute Baby. He wanted me to create a red look for him. Now, the thing is that this is pretty pink, you know? It really is. When I look at it though, I see red in here. Like this shade, obviously, this shade looks red. But I used this shade right in my transition area, and it was very pink. This did kind of help bring some red into it, but really where I got the red was from this shade right here. This one's called Black Cherry, that shimmer shade. That really made the look a lot more red, but it was still pretty damn pink. And you know, there are pink shades in here. I don't know what I was thinking. I have other red palettes in my collection that I probably should have pulled for that look, but I don't know. I love how this palette performs. I think these palettes, the Sweet Shops from BH Cosmetics, are BH Cosmetics' best formulation. I mean, absolutely. I haven't purchased anything from BH Cosmetics in probably over a year since Makeup Revolution took over, which I didn't really care about that. I like Makeup Revolution, but just not real thrilled with what they're putting out. But this, man, I love having this in my collection. And it was really fun to create a look for a Cute Baby. And he loved it. He loved my look. Number 2 is the Glamlight Freddy Krueger palette. Now, I do have 2, both the palettes that were released in that collection. However, one look I filmed on November 30th, and the other palette I used on December 1st. So I'll be showing that other palette in my December palette collection ranking, whatever. And I liked this palette so much better than the other one, really did. I swatched some of the other shades in that other palette. I didn't put them on my lids, and they just swatched really strangely. And I felt like this palette worked really well. I love the shimmers that I used. I've only used these 2 so far. And then the 2 or 3 mattes I used this one, and this one. You know, they just worked really well. The mattes were very pigmented and blendable, and the shimmers were stunning. They really were. Now, I do have the like Scooby-Doo palettes. I have other, you know, lots of other Glamlight palettes. I will say that, I don't know, I would say, I guess, that the Scooby-Doo palettes perform better maybe than, well, I don't know. I do think that this performed really, I mean, it's number 2 for a reason. I love the color story. That's one of the main reasons why it's number 2. But I was very happy with how the shades performed. I know that some people aren't real thrilled with these palettes, but I really liked it. I really did. I will not be ranking the other one as high as this one. That's for damn sure. But this one, yeah, I love it, you know, and I love Freddy Krueger. Who loves Freddy Krueger? I do. And then the palette that's in the number 1 spot is the Club Nebula that Kaleidos Cosmetics did in collaboration with Angelica Nikavist. This palette, when I first got it, I used it, I think, for like 2 or 3 weeks straight. I just could not stop using it. And I'm so thrilled that I picked this up, because when I picked this up, I wasn't a huge colorful eyeshadow fan at that point. I mean, I was, but I just didn't really know exactly how to apply colorful shadows to my lids. I was really into the neutral realm. But this really helped kind of pull me into the colorful world of eyeshadows. And everything in here works so well. The mattes, the shimmers, we've got so much beautiful duochromeness going on in here. Very deceiving because it looks one way in the pan. It looks completely different on your eyelids, especially this shade here called Nova. Looks very like whitish pink, but on the lids, it's got this beautiful like baby blue, fairy wing-esque shift to it, you know. This shimmer is gorgeous. I love this shade called Rock Hopper, that matte. It's so pretty. This shimmer shade is beautiful. I mean, everything, just so beautiful. Now this is no longer available, which sucks. This palette, I really could use it every single day probably and be absolutely just tickled pink about it. But again, I have this weird thing in my brain where it's like, I want to like put this in a little vault and save it forever, not use it stupid. So I was really happy to pull it out and use it. I did a old school palette video with this and just loved it, you know, loved it. And if you have this, I want to say, I tip my hat to you. And if you don't have it, I hope someday, maybe they'll re-release it. I doubt it, but maybe you can find it somewhere on the internet. Maybe somewhere, I don't know. So those were the 10 palettes I used throughout the month of November, and that's how I ranked them. Of course, I'm sitting here thinking, well, I should have moved this and should have done that. I do that every single time. I guess I feel like my palettes have feelers and I'm going to hurt their little feelers. So let me know what you think of my ranking. Let me know what you think of the looks I put together, and let me know if you have any of these palettes. We can chat about that in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your lives to sit down and watch this video. If you're new here and you enjoyed what you saw, please consider subscribing, smash the like button, and of course, comment down below in the comment section. I love to chat with you guys there. If you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. I cannot wait to see you guys again on my next video. But in the meantime, please take very good care of yourself. Be well, safe, happy, and I will see you soon. Bye.
Drop it.